Imagine waking up the day after Election Day, or maybe 2 weeks after Election Day when they finally call the results, because that's how we do things now in America in 2024. But imagine waking up and hearing the final results and learning that Republicans have lost their majority in the House, lost the chance to get the majority in the Senate. The deep state will grow unabated. And by the way, Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito will be replaced by whoever the left-wing Democrat is in the White House now. Maybe Gavin Newsom, maybe Kamala Harris, maybe Pete Buttigieg. Nobody thinks it's going to be Joe Biden. Imagine all of that happening, and all because Donald Trump got the Republican nomination. That's what our next guest believes. Scott Morefield is a columnist at Townhall with a provocative column today, Scott, saying basically everything's going to go to hell if Trump gets the nomination. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Larry. It's great to be here.
So I sort of laid out the framework here, but fill in the blanks here. What do you think happens? Because I'm hearing from the Trump team that they've got more popularity, more money, and they're actually getting more response from the Republican base than they got even back in 16 and 20.
No, the thing is, you're talking a total electoral wipeout if Trump is elected. And I think this is a paper tiger. I think that really since COVID and since January 6th and just on down the line, Trump has done nothing to expand his voter base. So you've got a really rabid core of Trump supporters who are very loud. They come to his rallies. A lot of times at those rallies, you have the same people attending all the rallies in a lot of cases. The crowds are not as big as they were. So Trump's support really is more like the Wizard of Oz, like it's behind the curtain. It's very loud, but it's not as widespread. And he has done nothing to increase his voter base since 2020. So all these things really, I think that's a minimum. I would fully expect that stuff to happen.
Tell me how what you just told me is going to happen in 24. Tell me how that's any different than the exact same thing I heard in 2016. They were telling me that not only was Trump going to go down in flames in 2016, but he was going to ruin the Republican brand from that point forward.
Yeah, and the suckiest part of it is I spent so many columns in 2016 writing against the Never Trumpers.
Right, I know. That's why you're here.
I felt like he could pierce the blue wall. And he did pierce the blue wall in 2016. So, but barely. I mean, barely. It was razor's edge. It worked. It was a miracle. But you don't bet snake eyes. You don't bet the house on snake eyes after rolling snake eyes the previous round. It's absurd. So 2016 was very unique. You had a situation where he was able to sneak through. But since then, of course, 2020, he was the incumbent. And so he's going to get easily the nomination, and he's going to get the privileges of incumbency, which helped him get the votes that he got, as well as the dislike for Biden and the Democrats.
Yeah.
But I think we learned in 2020 that a bad economy is really not enough. You've got to have something. In my column, I was saying, absent some sort of apocalyptic event, you're not going to generally beat an incumbent anyway, even if it's Biden. I mean, I really think, and I've said this before, I think an eggplant could beat Trump at this point because there is such a swelling of hatred for the guy. And there's so many people that have really that will crawl over hot coals to vote against him.
Yeah, but not within the Republican electorate. I'm looking at the latest polling. Polls going back to early June of the Republican likely voters, he's over 50%. 2016 he had a majority, but it was always around 38, 39, 40%. You've got just as crowded a field here, Scott, and he's polling over 50% in every poll.
Yeah, and I see what you mean, but you have to realize too, he's an ex-president, so he's the elephant in the room. He's shown he did pull off a win, and so it's going to take a pretty big effort to knock him off that pedestal. But in 2016, he still had that rabid base of support that allowed him to whittle down the candidates until he was the final one. So yeah, I would expect him to have, honestly, if right now, if he had been doing things to increase his voter base, he would be at 80% right now, not 50%. So the fact that he's at 50% as an ex-president tells you something. So I think as far as just going forward, I just don't see how he's going to pull it off.
Scott Morefield's a columnist at Townhall. He was a big Trump supporter in 2016, and now his latest column basically lays out what he believes will happen if Trump does get the Republican nomination, and it doesn't look good. If you believe what Scott has to say here, Scott, there has to be let's stipulate that you're right, and that if Trump gets the nomination, it's disaster for Republicans. You got to have a candidate who can challenge. I mean, you got to have a candidate who can win.
Right.
Lord knows he's got plenty of comers right now, and none of them are making a dent.
Yeah, I really feel like that some of these minor candidates need to get out of the race, and they know the stakes. I think Chris Christie is in there for a reason. He knows he's not going to win, but he's trying to hammer Trump. It was interesting because DeSantis finally hit back on some policy positions yesterday on media buzz, and that was I did a clip on that on Twitter, and it went across the board. And Christie actually quote tweeted that with the Bruce Willis clip, like, it's about time, because he's been fighting Trump this whole time. You've got these people who Mike Pence. Where's Mike Pence's lane? He has no lane. Vivek Ramaswamy. He's not electable. He's too swarmy. He's too smarmy. He's too preachy. He's not gonna win. So these people are in there.
Are you helping Trump with a nickname here? Am I hearing Vivek Ramaswamy coming through
Smarmy,
here?
yes, Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh, he's a nice guy.
The guy's a con artist.
He's one of the few who's actually growing in the polls right now.
Yeah.
He's actually building some momentum here.
Yeah, he is, and honestly, he says a lot of things. He's articulate. He's really smart. So I do think that there's some snake oil vibes about the guy. It's kind of like I felt like about Ted Cruz in 2016. I liked Ted Cruz, still like Ted Cruz, but Ted Cruz is unelectable on a national scale. People aren't just gonna, swarm to his cause. So I kind of feel that way about Vivek. I feel like he has a kind of the political nerds on our side really like the guy, and I can appreciate that. I do, but he's not electable on a national scale, and he's not experienced. So if he was a senator, maybe, or a governor or something like that. But ultimately, I think that DeSantis has to pierce that aura of inevitability about Trump, because right now everybody's assuming Trump's going to win. And so these polls are showing that, but a lot of these polls are showing some really nonsensical things. So the ones that are showing Trump, especially the ones that are showing Trump beating Biden in a national election, those polls also show Trump winning women, or Biden winning 52% of the black vote, or Biden winning or Trump winning Hawaii. So these absurd things that these polls are showing shows you that these polls are only polling the people who are super into politics right now, which is not most people. Most people are tired of Trump. So I think if DeSantis can win Iowa, or I think he needs to win Iowa, I really do. And I think he needs to do really well in the debates. Whether or not Trump is there, he needs to do really well in the debates. So if DeSantis can do both of those things, I think he can pierce that aura about Trump and show people that the guy can be beat. And if he does that, I think he can do it. I think he can win, but it's tough. And yes, if Trump wins, he's going to have fewer votes than 2020.
Let's end on that, because I wanted to add, you say in your column he's going to get fewer votes than he got in 2020. This is after 4 years of knowing exactly what Biden as president does to this country. Why do you think that people would not rather go back to the economy Trump had rather than sticking with the Biden plan?
You would think that, but then the Republican red wave is calling and kind of questioning what happened there. So I think it takes a lot to wake people up, and so that's why I'm saying, like, some sort of economic apocalypse may be what does it.
You can't really compare a midterm to a presidential election, though, can you? I mean, nobody votes for Congress singing this will change the economy around. That's where the executive comes in.
Right, but here's the thing about Trump is he's got to win the swing state, or any Republican has to win the swing state. So even a national poll, where I don't think Trump would beat Biden in a popular vote, but even if he did, there's no signs that he's going to win Arizona. There's no signs that he's going to win Wisconsin, and Georgia's going to be tough. Like, if you look at all those places, there are unique things about those places. The polling shows him way behind. The polling shows DeSantis leading in those places.
Well,
So really, anybody, for the most part, is gonna lead in those places and easily take them. But
we got to leave it
Trump
there.
would have a hard time.
Scott, got it. Scott Morefield, a provocative column from him at Town Hall today. And we like provocative opinions and we like provocative conversations. So thanks, Scott. More to come on O'Connor tonight.